call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. Excuse me. You can join today's board meeting via phone. Dial 971-254-3149. Conference ID 736-023-979#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on the best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, so you can join us by going online, excuse me, to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to please mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. So public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us, again by 12 p.m. on the Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office, 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Today we will be accepting public comment at the beginning of the meeting as we normally do. Isabel, do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
We have 2 online registrations and 1 in person.
Thank you. And we're going to take that a little out of order since we have a presentation this morning. Thank you. Okay, so we have called this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone. Please sign the guest list if you have not already done that. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Bell, would you lead us, please?
Sure, I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, we're going to skip public comments for just a moment. Do we have any non-agenda items? We do not. So we're going to go directly into item number 5 to start. We're going to get an election update from County Clerk Tassie O'Neill. Tassie, are you there?
Good morning, I am here.
Good morning.
Good morning. So today, for the update that I'd like to give to you is if you go on our web page, which is connected, a link to the election night reporting for the May 17th, 2020 election, you'll see all of the results that we have that had been completed. We went home at 2 a.m. on election evening, and that left us with a 44.90% turnout, which was at the time one of the highest for the state. We will be adding more ballots into that. We will be processing more on the 26th with an election board coming in and with the opening board and processing through the ballot machine, and more results will be loaded tomorrow and on June 9th. So what we're working on is the ballots that were either turned into other counties, which is okay by law, and then those get forwarded, and the last day those can be forwarded is today. Folks who have not signed their ballot envelope, or if their signature did not match, which we check every signature, those folks have till June 7th to turn those in. We also, for the first time, are working on processing the ballots that were postmarked on election day. So that's a whole new process for us in the state, and so we're working through that process as something new. So with those 2 releases that we will do, the 26th and the 9th, the majority of that will be included in those results. And then we have till June 13th to to certify all of the election results. So we are working on all of that. We are short-staffed, and so that's making it a little bit more difficult. And so we're just working through all that. But people can go on our website at www.co.tillema.or.us, go to the clerk department, and then, as I said, you can click on the link to the election results. You can also email our generic email, which is clerk@co.tillema.or.us, or myself specifically at toneal@co.tillema.or.us, or call us at 503-842-3402 with any questions that anyone might have. Are there any questions at this time?
Questions for Cassie? Cassie, we appreciate everything you do. You run a great department. There are some other issues within the state of Oregon when it came to voting this last time. And I know there's one county in particular that is still trying to get their results up and posted. And that may still take them a while, but from what we've seen from you, Tassie, you're just doing a terrific job.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Tassie and her staff. I stopped in the morning after just to check on everybody and see how they were doing. And they definitely, that 2 a.m. is a really difficult piece. And to circle back and open the clerk's office as required the following morning with the staff that we have, the same staff that were there until 2 a.m. We just really appreciate the heroic efforts.
I agree, and I'd just like to say personally thank you, Tassie, and to your staff and to your volunteers, to all the election officials. It means so much in Tillamook County that we can have complete confidence in our election process. It's the most important thing, to be able to vote and have confidence that your vote is being handled properly, and so thank you very much.
Thank you. All your kind words mean more than you know.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Tassie.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up next, we do have a presentation. This is a terrific presentation. We have some treats that were dropped off to us this morning. So with us this morning, we've got Valerie Bundy, Executive Director, and Beth Hope, Community Response Coordinator from Tides of Change. And they're going to go through their presentation of Tides of Change Services Overview. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for having us this morning.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
So we are just going to do kind of an overview of who Tides of Change is and what the services are that we are providing. So one of the things to remind people is we changed our name in 2019. So we used to be Tillamook County Women's Resource Center, and prior to that, we were the Women's Crisis Center. So people know us for all kinds of different names, but Tides of Change is our current name now. Can we do the next slide? So our mission is to provide hope, safety, and support to those who are impacted by gender-based violence, and we do that to shift cultural norms through advocacy, education, and community collaboration. So we serve survivors. Gender-based violence is a more succinct term, but we serve survivors who have experienced domestic and dating violence, sexual violence, stalking, and human trafficking, which is almost all kinds of interpersonal violence that you can experience, we serve. So kind of going over what we do. A lot of people think with a domestic violence type agency, you just shelter people, and that's all you do. We do have our emergency shelter. However, that is our least access service because we can only serve 6 households at one time, and so that's not very many people that can be in our shelter. Our shelter has been also at half capacity throughout the pandemic, so instead of 6 households, we chose to do 3 to make sure that we reduce the spread, and in communal living it's very concerning. We have reopened to full capacity a couple of months ago, and so we're operating as normal again within our shelter. One nice thing about our shelter is we're also fully pet friendly, so survivors, the whole family can come now. So we can serve a single adult with children, and we can also serve pets now, which is not something that all shelters do at this point in time, but we want to make sure that that's one less barrier to leaving. I would leave my pets behind, and a lot of other survivors wouldn't either. What we're kind of known for is our crisis services. So we do a lot of crisis intervention. That can include safety planning, really unique about how someone can try to obtain safety either while they're attempting to leave or even afterwards. And so it's really important if someone is considering to leave an abusive relationship that they actually have safety plan before they do that. We know people are most at risk when attempting to leave, and that's unfortunately when we see the most lethality, and a lot of the murder-suicides that we have seen have been when someone has made actions to leave the relationship. We do what we call as advocacy, which is not a term that means something to everybody else. And so advocates are very similar to case managers, is kind of the best way to explain it. Similar to what the staff do at CARE, Veritas Navigating Systems is a lot of what we do. We do information referrals. We accompany survivors to many different systems, both like to interviews with law enforcement. We go to court with people. Sometimes we've gone to medical appointments with these survivors because they needed additional support. So really we are pretty mobile in the community. One thing that we also do is a lot of protection order assistance. That has increased over the last 2 years significantly. We're not quite sure why that specific service has been increasing, but it has been. So we help people fill out the paperwork, get it served over to the courthouse, and then assist them while they go before the judge, and also if their order is contested, we'll go with them to court. We also do health advocacy, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but we help support survivors also in addressing their health needs. So not just injuries related to violence, but also making sure they're addressing their own chronic health issues that might be caused by living in chronic toxic stress. So we really want to make sure we're serving the whole person and that they're able to be able to function. Trauma does a lot to the body and a lot to the brain, and if we're not addressing their health needs, it's really hard to be able to do all of these other things. And then, so we've really been, that's kind of like a lot of our crisis service is what we're known for, but we want to serve people beyond the crisis as well. And so by doing that, we have counseling services, however, we don't have a counselor right now. So, the hiring issue that everybody's having, hopefully we'll figure out how to navigate that. So that's on hold, but we do have our support groups. We have an art through healing type of support group that's been really popular. We've done that at the Wilson River School as well as in our office for adults, but we're also expanding in the end of June to start having our intimate partner violence support group again, as well as a new group called TREM, which is Trauma Recovery Empowerment Model. And that really is meant to do some more in-depth healing and addressing the effects of trauma on survivors. So those are open to anyone. All they have to do is call our office to get more information. And so we really want to remind people that we are not just crisis-based, so at any point in the journey, people can come, whether the incident of abuse happened 20 years ago or yesterday. And also that we serve everyone, all survivors, all ages. Half of my staff are bilingual, bicultural, Spanish-speaking, so we serve survivors regardless of documentation status or their ability to speak English. And two other things. Our practices are survivor-led. So survivors are going to tell us what they want support with, what their goals are, and we do a lot of information kind of explaining all of their options that are available to them, what might be the consequences of all of those choices, some are unintended consequences, and then support them in their choices. Even if the choices are not what everybody that loves them wants them to do, we still are going to support people because they're the best navigators of their own lives, and we want them to have information. We don't require people, in terms of a domestic violence relationship, to leave their relationship to receive services. That's not a part of our goal of providing services. We want to support people, so we will support people and serve people who are not planning to leave. And sometimes that's the more important people that we do serve, to be able to provide information about how they can be safe or what they can do if things escalate. And we are confidential. So that's the big thing, is we're 100% confidential. It's a little bit different than what other people's confidentiality is like, such as healthcare under HIPAA. In Oregon, in state statute, we have what's called advocate privilege. And so best way to describe it, similar to attorney-client privilege, which we all know those terms. So survivors choose who we can tell information to. So we don't confirm or deny that we've ever met someone or worked with them, which can be very frustrating to other people sometimes, but it's really designed that there's one safe place a survivor can go to and be really honest about what's happening without fear of a report to law enforcement or a mandated child abuse report, so that we can do actual effective safety planning and they're not missing some key elements to make sure that they're considering safety. We do cooperate and work with law enforcement all the time, so that's not that we're trying to be secretive. And I think that was everything, right? Yeah. All right, next slide. That's going to talk about some of our partnerships that we have in our community.
The advocacy-initiated response is a response designed for when law enforcement responds to a domestic violence incident. So what happens is when an officer responds, they collect some information, get permission from the survivor, and then gives the information to an advocate, calls. We have a special line that they can call, and the advocate then is responsible to call within an hour, and they contact and then offer explain what could happen, what does happen in the whole process of the criminal legal process, and then provide additional support as much as they want. And it's a great partnership. The first law enforcement agency that really came on board was Rockaway Beach and Tillamook County Sheriff's Office, and now, and also the Manzanita Police Department is involved, and then we just developed a new partnership with the City of Tillamook, and we're very excited. That means that we will be able to assist survivors in every community of our county, and that is a wonderful thing to have happening. In fact, one of the things that we just did this month in this room was we provided, in partnership with those agencies and also with the prosecutor's office, we did a training for all of those agencies here in this very room. The other thing that we do is we have a sexual assault response team that is a partnership of medical providers, the DA's office, our office, and all the law enforcement agencies. And we, right now, a really key element of that is the sexual assault nurse examiners. Right now, Tillamook County doesn't have an active, SANE is the acronym for it. We don't have an actual active SANE who can do the exams. So if a survivor chooses to have an exam, they would need to go outside of the county to do that. But what we're doing is we're working with partners, with Adventist Health, with Reinhardt, and possibly with the Tillamook County Community Health Center to be able to come up. We're actively working on obtaining a grant in partnership with those agencies or organizations to create a long-term plan solution to that. And we've actually talked to some people in the county, RNs, who are interested in it, and so that's really exciting that people are interested in taking on that responsibility. The next thing on our list is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and as a part of that, we are in partnership with Oregon Youth Authority and with Department of Corrections for South Fork Forest Camp. We are the designated advocacy organization if they were to have one of their inmates who was sexually assaulted or had a sexual assault before they came to their facility. We would be the advocacy agency that responds. We've actually been able to go to South Fork and tour it a couple times. Gorgeous place up there in the woods. And then I've also been able to go out and tour the OYA facilities. In fact, one of our advocates actually did an internship there before she started to work for us. Then the Domestic Violence Intervention Council is a really important part of the work that we do with domestic violence survivors. This is also a partnership with the DA's office, law enforcement, DHS, parole and probation, also the Choices Batters Intervention Group. All of these people representatives meet every other month. The SART meets they meet alternate months, so because a lot of these are the same people on both of these teams, so they don't have to meet with the same people twice in 1 month. And a couple of things that we've been doing as a part of the Domestic Violence Intervention Council. One of the things that I'm really proud of is in March, the beginning of March, our DV Council sent a group of people to a strangulation prevention training in Wilsonville a whole week. And 4 of our advocates went, including me, Paul Benford from the DA's office, Christina Botmy from the Victims Assistance, and also Deputy David Bartlett. The people who, it was actually a national organization who was doing the presenting, they were extremely impressed that we had representatives from all of these areas, from our little tiny county, and population-wise. In fact, one of the main speakers came and took our sign and took a picture of all of us at our table because she wanted to be sure everyone in the world would know that Tillamook County was so well represented there. And as a part of that training there, the training that we recently did for the Advocacy Initiated Response included some of the strangulation prevention training that we learned at that training. One of the things that we have as a part of our grant that also is a part of our domestic violence response is we have a 0.5 FTE position that the grant pays for as part of the sheriff's office. So our partnership with them is just really solid and excellent. And I think that was all. Anything I missed?
That was great.
Okay.
And then these are just our statistics for 2021. The amount of survivors we served in 2021 is down from 2019, so that's our comparison. 2020 was obviously much lower. But the amount of services we provided, the 11,000 services to 427 people, is 25% higher than in 2019. So we are seeing people with a lot more complex needs and needing a lot more ongoing support than previously. In the past, we would have people see us once or twice, but now people are seeing us for months. So far in 2022, we're seeing the numbers continue to rise. It's good and bad. It's good that survivors are outreaching to us and seeing us. Obviously, it's unfortunate that we have to even exist. 27% of survivors that we serve are Latinx from the Latinx community, which is why it's really important that half of our staff are bilingual and bicultural. In 2021, 42 protection orders were filed with assistance from our advocates. That does not mean that there weren't more. And those numbers are so far going to be higher in 2022. And then our crisis calls also include our chat service that we have that's anonymous on our website, as well as a text service that we have. Those have gone up 125% since 2019. I think we had 179 calls in 2019, and now we have 524. So people are reaching out to us and accessing us. The Advocate Initiated Response that Beth talked about, we had 58 calls from law enforcement in 2021. In 2020, we had 84 calls, which was scary, but also really grateful that law enforcement partners with us. About 67% of survivors who receive a call from the air response have engaged in further services with our agency, which is one of the big goals of it. If we can engage sooner, hopefully that reduces the amount of time law enforcement has to respond to scenes with that location, and that people are able to achieve safety. Our bed nights are significantly lower than they had been prior to the pandemic, and that's partially because our shelter had been at half capacity. So I think that's everything on the next slide.
I have to come out of the meeting to mute some people. It's been sick, sorry.
Thank you, Isabel, for doing that.
I can't access.
That's always the risk of online meetings.
So that's just the briefest response, or briefest explanation of what we do at times of change. Happy to answer any additional questions that you guys might have. Also, what we did put on there is we are always happy to go out and talk to organizations, workplaces, civic groups about what we do, but also we can do trainings, domestic violence 101, the effects of domestic violence on children, whatever people need, we can come up with a training for it. So we're happy to come and talk about it, because honestly, Tides of Change alone is not going to make a change in violence in our community, and even, it takes the whole community response, which we're really grateful that we have all of the participation in SART and in the DVIC Council, because without partners like law enforcement, the DA's office, victims assistance, CARE even, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
Questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for making this presentation, and also for the very important good work that you do in our community. I agree, as everyone said, as you said yourself, that it's too bad that it's necessary to have an organization like this, but it means so much to have compassionate response, to have support and care for victims, and provide resources, and it's such important work. It's such important work that as I have been learning about it, I've become impassioned about it and applied for the board. So thank you very much for being here and for everything you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I mean, I think most people know, they've all heard me speak about where I started in Tillamook County, which actually was working for what was then the Women's Crisis Center. So it's been a long time ago. But there's always a conversation that I like to resurface that was really life-changing for me in that work. And that was really around changing the narrative from why doesn't she leave to why don't we stop him? You know, why don't we hold offenders accountable? Why in the community is the narrative always around the victim? And it could be, why doesn't he leave? Because you do serve both genders. But instead of the victim blaming narrative, why don't we have the holding the offender accountable narrative? And for me, you know, I hadn't been exposed before. I didn't have that conversation in my life, and it really changed how I looked at all of the services that were provided and how I looked at my own community and who's in it. So I always like to resurface that conversation because I think it's important. I also have a quick question. Are you guys back to doing volunteer training? Is that available again yet?
That's in the works. We aren't really sure what we are going to utilize volunteers for moving forward, and so that's what we're going to figure out first. But we do hope, I know we've had some people ask, that we will do training again in the future.
One of the things that was so powerful as an employee, I went through the volunteer training as we were all required to do, and just again learning more about the dynamics of intimate partner violence and recognizing that it isn't as simple as it might look from the outside, and just really beginning to understand more and be able to provide support to people in my own life where they might have questions, and what you learn in that training. So I hope that even if you're unable to do volunteer training, that people will think about asking for training on the DV 101, because it's really, you know, if you haven't had that in your life, if you haven't had the training, there's so much to learn and to know that changes how you see the dynamics of it. So I just encourage people to take that step, and if you have a workplace, invite them in for training. It's amazing. So they're amazing. Thank you guys all for the work that you do. It is extremely difficult work. It's extremely heavy work, and we can't live without it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Valerie and Beth, I mean, you guys are doing terrific work. You've got great staff. The statistics are kind of breathtaking. This is a small county, 6,000 residents or so, and the statistics you're showing are from 2021, which was an off year, a rather slow year, and you had over 11,000 services in Tillamook County. It's breathtaking, it really is. So again, appreciate so much all the work you do. You don't think of Tillamook County having these kinds of problems, but we do. We're not unlike every other county in the state and in the nation. We're really not. And I just want to read your mission statement one more time, because it's perfect. To provide hope, safety, and support to those impacted by gender-based violence, and to shift cultural norms through advocacy, education, and community collaboration. It's a terrific mission statement. Thank you so much for what you do in Tillamook County.
Thank you.
Really, really greatly appreciated. And thank you for the treat. Any other questions, comments? Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
It's breathtaking, eye-opening, it is. So we're going to go back now to public comment, and we're going to take public comment only at the beginning of the meeting, as we normally do. It's my understanding that we have 2 public comments virtually and 1 in person. Shall we start, Isabel, with the virtual public comments? And that's why we want to do the in-person first? Okay. So, So we have David Boone. David, can you come up and please let us, again, would you introduce yourself and give us your area of residence, please?
Okay, my name is David Boone. I live in Neocon, I'm a full-time resident in Neocon. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Yamamoto, Vice Chair Scar, Commissioner Bell, and Director Absher. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the proposed order pausing STR permits. I indicated I was a resident of Neocon. I'm also a commissioner on the board of the Neocon Water District. I want to commend Director Absher for recognizing the current STR ordinance fails to adequately address the detrimental impact of the growing number of STRs in our community, and for proposing a temporary pause on the issuance of new STR permits to permit adequate study of the issue. However, I'm deeply concerned that the proposed 5-week delay in implementing the pause will result in a flood of new applications. As Director Absher has reported, the county has already received a record number of new applications. By announcing that a pause will start on July 1, an even greater flood is likely. Potentially creating more STR permits under the present inadequate regulations will make an already critical issue even worse. Many county decisions involve balancing competing interests. In this case, it's the interest of the STR industry versus the interest of the residents of the unincorporated communities of Tillamook County. I would note that many of the incorporated communities have already taken action. Paragraph 8 in particular is startling, since it gives those who at this point have no tangible interest 5 weeks to create one. Please don't burden residents of our communities further by including future sales contracts. I urge you to make the pause effective today, with the possible exception of those properties currently under contract and in escrow. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so now we're going to go online, and I believe we have David Benz. David, if you're with us, and if you're online or if you're on the phone, you can unmute by pressing *6. David Benz?
I don't see him online.
So let's come back to David Benz then after we go to our third public comment. Is it Donning? McDonough?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. McDonough. How are you? Again, if you could introduce yourself and give us your area of residence, please.
Great. My name is Donnie McDonough, and I am a Tillamook County property owner in Pacific City and a taxpayer for the past 12 years.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed change to suspend the processing and issuing of short-term rental permits. To be upfront, I oppose the proposed action as the data made available by the county does not indicate there is a crisis that requires an action as drastic as shutting down the processing and issuance of permits for short-term rentals. The potential impact of a permit suspension is not theoretical or hypothetical to me and my family. This proposed action will have a profound impact on us, and I believe is likely to have significant negative consequences for the county. But if the commissioners, if you do decide to take this action, I'm requesting a technical correction be made to the proposal. For the past 22 years, my family and I have vacationed in Pacific City, staying in rented beach houses. 12 years ago, my family and I purchased a vacant lot in Pacific City with a plan, once we could afford to implement it, to build a home that we would occupy full-time in retirement. In addition to the purchase of land, we have recently invested over $100,000 in architectural fees and other pre-development costs. Now 2 local contractors are waiting to bid on the construction of our new home in Pacific City. We still intend to occupy the home full-time in retirement, but the home needs to be a partial year rental property until we are able to retire. Our project hinges on our ability to periodically rent the property once constructed. Without the ability to have occasional short-term rentals, our development is not financially viable for us. And if we don't build, or we delay building, because we have lost the ability to have short-term rentals, the property taxes that would have been paid to the county, moving from taxes on a vacant lot to taxes on a new home, will not be paid to the county, nor will the fees that are associated with short-term rentals. I appreciate the draft legislation attempts in paragraphs 10 and 11 to protect county residents selling their property and protects new buyers of existing STRs looking to purchase in the county. But as a long-term property owner in the county, it's difficult not to take offense at the fact that the proposed action prioritizes new out-of-county buyers over existing property owners who are about to make major investments in Pacific City. Our project is not just beneficial to my family, it's beneficial to the county, to the county-based contractors who will construct it. If this action is to be taken by the county, we are requesting your support for a specific targeted amendment to the draft proposal in order to mitigate the economic harm to my family and possibly others that would result. We are recommending modifying paragraph 11 to insert an additional sentence after the first sentence in paragraph 11. The first sentence reads, now, this temporary suspension does not apply to real properties that are pending sale and in escrow on July 1, 2022. We're suggesting adding a sentence after that stating this suspension also does not apply to real properties for which a building permit for new residential construction is approved by the county by July 1, 2023. Without this technical correction, the proposed legislation creates regulatory barriers that will require me and possibly many others to rethink our planned investment in Tillamook County. Thank you for consideration of my testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonough. So let's go back and try one more time. Do we have David Benz? David Benz, you've signed up for virtual public comment. Are you with us?
I did not see.
Mr. Benz, going once, going twice.
If he's on the telephone, would he be able to unmute with *6?
Yeah.
So maybe just a reminder that if he is on the telephone, he would unmute with *6.
So, Mr. Benz, if you are on a phone line calling in, you can unmute yourself again by pressing *6. Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on. So, moving on to item number 7, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of declaring county-owned property as surplus. And with us, we have Under Sheriff Matt Kelly.
Morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, Under Sheriff. How are you?
Lovely, how are you guys?
I am lovely also.
Before you this morning, we have a 2014 Ford F-150 that should have been disposed a couple years ago. It has a bad engine, and the rest of the vehicle not too bad, but I priced it to replace the engine, and it was about 10 grand, which was not worth repairing. So we want to surplus it. We have developed a relationship with Garibaldi Fire, and they want it. I'm not really sure why, because the engine is not, it's running but not well. But I think they have intention to use it for parts or something. So, in their fire department, I thought it was a good idea. So that's what I have for you.
I know the Stucker Fire has some vehicles out at the Sand Lake fire office they have there, and they use it for fire training. You want to do that? I don't know.
I think it's to use it for equipment for different vehicles and stuff like that. And the nice thing about it is, if we just sold it for pennies on the dollar, the county would still have to pay about $1,000 to pull all that emergency equipment off the vehicle. So it saves us money in the long run. That I'll just take some equipment that is law enforcement specific, and they'll keep much of the other stuff and save us.
Perfect. Okay. Questions, concerns?
No, I think it's great. I'm glad they're able to make use of it, so thanks for arranging.
Yeah, agreed.
Perfect. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of declaring county-owned property as surplus.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank
you, and Sharon.
Thank you.
Item number 8, discussion and consideration of a prevailing wage contract for construction with Arden Olson Flooring for the correctional facility flooring replacement project. With us this morning, we've got Lieutenant Fernando Cervera. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner.
How are you?
Good morning.
Everyone doing well? Hopefully doing well.
So far, so good.
So we're towards the tail end of this project. We've been working on it for almost a year now. So like I said, we're almost finished with it, and this will hopefully make our AIC's living quarters safer, cleaner, and that's the whole goal from the beginning of this project, was to make sure that we were running a safe and clean environment for the adults in custody. And this is towards the tail end of this one project.
Perfect. Didn't we discuss this during the ARPA funding? Yes. Perfect. One of the things that we did approve. So, questions, concerns?
No, it's an interesting flooring, as I recall. Yeah, they spread it as a liquid and it hardens, right? And it's
Yeah.
non-slip and it's very durable, and it's just an interesting flooring. It's not like linoleum or anything simple. It's really
Yeah, it's
cool stuff.
used in kitchens, big industrial businesses.
Yeah.
It's quite a work. I've watched them obviously, and they have to rip all the flooring out, get it down to bare concrete. Anything that was left previously has to be removed. A whole ventilation system has to be installed because of the air quality of the chemical that they apply. We're having to move AICs from units to different units. It's quite a project, but it does last. And I remember when they first started this, originally when they did some of the bathrooms, it looks like it was just done yesterday, and that's been quite a few years ago. So it's a good product, and it's working out extremely well for us.
Yeah, it's good durable stuff. But if you're looking at the price tag and having a little sticker shock, it's because it is a very specialized product, and it does last a really long time.
That's
So
correct.
Industrial, commercial.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Very good. I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a prevailing wage rate contract for construction with Arden Olson Flooring for the correctional facility flooring replacement project.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Commissioner. Appreciate it very much.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
too.
Moving on to item number 9, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of increasing the customer rates for solid waste disposal for solid waste collection franchisee with Ecology Western Oregon. With us this morning, David McCall, Solid Waste Program Manager. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So just a little bit of background on this and the next 2 items together, so you have context. We have 5 franchised areas in the county, each of which has an exclusive solid waste collection franchisee. We actually have 4 franchisees, but for 5 different areas, but that's, the uniqueness. Each year, all of our franchisees are required to submit financial and also non-financial review documents to us by March 31st of each year, showing what they did during the previous calendar year. That includes their revenues and their expenses, but also what they've invested in different operational changes that they have gone through during that previous year. At that time, each franchisee has the option to request a rate review, which is usually a rate increase, but it's technically a rate review, which would go into effect on July 1st of that year for the next 12 months. So basically what we use is a fiscal year. So they use the numbers of the past to predict what they'll have in the future. And according to their franchise agreements, the accepted rate of return is between 8 and 12% on revenue. That's to ensure that they have adequate funding available in the company to be able to go through new investments and keep them solvent, but also that they're not making too much money off of this exclusive franchise agreement, because it's in the interest of keeping rates fair and equitable to the public for that. So each of our franchisees is required to go through this process, and we have 3 franchises that have requested rate reviews this year. They were reviewed by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and so with that, I am presenting them for you here today. The first one we have, which is for agenda item number 9, is a rate review request from Recology Western Oregon, which is our franchisee in the north part of the county. Now, remember, our jurisdiction does not include any of the cities, so it's outside of the city limits of all 3 there. But so this is basically from the northern county border down to Rockaway Beach. And it's been, I believe, 3 years since Recology had a rate increase. They are requesting an 8% increase in their rates. And these rates, every time we say a percentage, it's always rounded a little bit because nobody likes dealing with too many pennies in their rates. So they might be rounded up or down to the nearest nickel or dime. But the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and staff recommends the approval of this rate increase. Also in light of the fact that we, as the Solid Waste Department, will be increasing the tipping fees this year on July 1st by 6%. And so this 8% increase by Recology Western Oregon is in line with that. It keeps them within the accepted rate of returns for the next year as predicted. And as I said, we recommend the approval of this. I know that Dave Larmuth from Recology Western Oregon is also on the line and available for any questions if you would like to ask him anything. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Questions, comments?
I don't have any questions. I think, we know that inflation is just, it's affecting all aspects of everyone's lives, and I'm sure our haulers are no different. And so as they are looking at the costs that are going out for them, I appreciate the process, and I did get a chance to review the numbers that they had provided for past expenses. I appreciate that, that there is a process built into their contract that allows them to be a viable business, because that's really important, but just also gives us a way to look and say what's changing for them, how's it going, to be able to consider when we're making these decisions. And it seems very reasonable to me.
I agree. I'm grateful for the services that are provided to us by our franchisees, and they need to be profitable. Otherwise, the county's going to be responsible for all of that service, and we're not prepared to do that. And they do a great job. And if you just think about how much our gas prices have gone up, this makes perfect sense.
I would agree with that. And David, I appreciate the SWAC weighing in, the Solid Waste Advisory Council, again, one of our highly paid commissions that does a lot of this work for us. Again, I'm joking there. These are all volunteers, and I say this constantly. Tillamook County cannot do without its volunteers. The SWAC is one of our great volunteer committees. They do great work. If they recommend this, then I've got no problems with this at all. So with that, I think we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of increasing the customer rates for solid waste disposal for solid waste collection franchisee Recology Western Oregon.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. David, you've got the next several here also. Item number 10, discussion and consideration in an order in the matter of increasing customer rates for solid waste disposal for solid waste collection franchisee Walker Waste Solutions, DBA City Sanitary Service. Again, David McCall.
Yes, so Commissioners, this is exactly the same process. The difference being that the City Sanitary Service is our franchisee for central counties, the Tillamook area, once again outside of the city limits of Tillamook, including the areas of Cape Mears and Netarts, all the way up Highway 6, all the way to where we touch Washington County, down through Pleasant Valley, up to Juneau Hill. And so Walker City Sanitary Service did have a slight rate increase last year of 3%. This year they're asking for 5%. If you add together 3 and 5, you come with the same 8 that Recology just had. The numbers work out very similarly. That's not because of anything like collusion. It's just because that's what the economy is today, and they're experiencing, the same cost with labor and fuel and tipping fees and et cetera. So, once again, the staff and the Solid Waste Advisory Committee recommends the approval of this rate increase.
Thank you, David. Comments, questions?
I feel the same way about Walker Waste Solutions as I do about Recology. We're grateful for their service.
Okay, perfect. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of increasing customer rates for solid waste disposal for solid waste collection franchisee Walker Waste Solutions, doing business as city sanitary service.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 11, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of increasing customer rates for solid waste disposal for solid waste collection franchisee Walker Waste Solutions, DJ Oceanside Sanitary Service. Again, David McCall.
So the background to this item is the same as the previous ones, but the rollout is slightly different. So the background being their reporting and the recommendations and everything is exactly the same. The difference here is that Walker Waste Solutions acquired this franchise from Griswold's almost a year and a half ago. And the rates that were charged by Oceanside and Griswold's were not the same as those by City Sanitary Service. And so they're in a process of aligning the rates so that they come together. So this is a 5% increase, but only on those items which are not yet at the same level. So, some of the rates in Oceanside were higher than they are for the other areas that are served by Walker Waste Solutions. So the ones that were higher, they're not changing those. They're only changing the ones that were lower, so that they're in the process of aligning these, so that eventually, in a few years, they will be able to merge these two franchises into one with the same rate structure. But that takes a little time.
Perfect. Questions, comments?
No, makes sense to me.
Makes sense.
Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of increasing customer rates for solid waste disposal for solid waste collection franchisee Walker Waste Solutions, doing business as Oceanside Sanitary Service.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 12, discussion and consideration of modification number 5 to personal services agreement number 4585 with Clean Earth Environmental Solutions, Inc. for household hazardous waste, conditionally exempt generator waste, and agricultural pesticide waste management services. Again, David McCall.
And once again, this is the item where I really strive to have the longest title possible.
Thank you for that, David.
And I may have the record on that. So Clean Earth Environmental Solutions is the company that is the professionals that come to staff our hazardous waste events, and all the hazardous waste that we collect through our facility is taken by them, sorted into its different categories, bulked and packed, and then shipped off for disposal in its appropriate form. So on that note, I would mention that we've been working with Clean Earth and their predecessors for, I believe it's 12 years now. They've been doing a great job, and currently about 86% of the hazardous waste we collect at our permanent facility is actually sent to and recycled, so not disposed of in a permanent way. And for hazardous waste, that's a very high percentage, and we're really proud of that. We're happy with it. So this is a modification to continue this contract for another year.
Thank you, David. Comments, questions?
I think it's great that we have the hazardous waste disposal program. We take our environment seriously in Tillamook County, and having a way to get rid of the hazardous waste in an appropriate way is very important. So I appreciate having this service.
Likewise, it's a great program. I visited recently, I think in April, a household hazardous waste event, and I was really impressed at how well organized it is, and all the people who are working in the event, and all of the collection materials that showed up in the event that people brought that are now not in the landfill. So I think it's a terrific program.
I absolutely agree. These hazardous solid waste events are terrific. Keeps things out of our rivers and streams and groundwater and solid waste disposal sites. Again, it's a terrific service to all the members of Sonoma County. It does great work. So with that, I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of modification number 5 to Personal Services Agreement 4585 with Clean Earth Environmental Solutions, Inc. for household hazardous waste, conditionally exempt generator waste, and agricultural pesticide waste management services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. David, you're continuing on. Item number 13, discussion and consideration of a contract for general services with Dairy Compost, Inc. for the processing of yard waste into a marketable project. David McCall.
Yes, so this is for our yard debris program, our composting program. At all three transfer stations, we accept yard debris, which in the past, say 10 years ago, was disposed of as trash as part of that mix. I think it was 9 years ago, we started separating it out, accepting it in separately at a slightly preferential rate as well, so it costs you less to dispose of yard debris than it does to dispose of trash, and we have maintained that. Our program is currently collecting approximately 1,200 tons of yard debris per year, and at the transfer stations, that material is collected and then chipped, and we send it to a composting facility where it is processed into compost, which contains valuable nutrients that's reintroduced into agriculture or nursery type settings, landscapers. And our contract had expired, so we went out, we did a request for proposals, and Dairy Compost, Inc., who has had the contract for this for, I believe, 6 or 7 years, submitted the best offer for this. And so based on that RFP, we are recommending that you approve this contract with Dairy Compost, Inc. To accept our chipped yard debris for processing at the facility, which is out at the Port of Tillamook.
Thank you, David. Comments, questions?
No, I think it's great.
David, just one quick one. This also has gone before the SWAC?
No, so the SWAC was involved in, so they know about the process of going out to bid because our contract expired, but they were not part of the evaluation of it. Okay. That was done by staff.
Okay, good. Okay, I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a contract for general services with Dairy Compost, Inc. for the processing of yard waste into a marketable product.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. David, you've got one more. Item number 14, discussion and consideration of a professional services agreement with Great West Engineering for the Civic City Transfer Station Engineering Services. David McCall.
This is last but definitely not least. So as you know, we've been reviewing our operations at our transfer stations for several years now in our processes. We've got Manzanitas rolling very much. We're in a bid process there now in Pacific City. We have been looking at different design issues. So this is a contract with the engineering corporation, so company Great West, to actually do the design work so that we can make some very significant improvements at the Pacific City transfer station. We are really pushing our limits in terms of the materials we take in and how we're able to take them in. And, we had increases in quantities in approximately 28% over the course of 1 year. There are times when we scratch our heads wondering where we're going to put things on the last day of the week because it's just we don't have the capacity. What we have designed there would be not only the repair of our existing Z-walls, but also the addition of 2 additional Z-walls and a building in which we would house the recycling materials and recycling activities there. So this would be a very significant improvement in Pacific City, really bring it into the 21st century and make it into a facility that we can be proud of. And so I recommend I request that you approve this contract with Great West so that we can get that project rolling.
Thank you, David. Questions, comments?
No, I think it's a great project. I look forward to seeing the end result.
Agreed. Yeah, this has been, we've been talking about it for a while, and it's exciting that the time has come.
So David, I'm going to hold you to that, bringing the Pacific City Transfer Station into the 21st century.
I could have said the 20th century, but
I would have been in full agreement with that, but we'll take it as it is. Thank you for your work on it. I think we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a professional services agreement with Great West Engineering for the Pacific City Transfer Station Engineering Services.
My second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. David, thank you for all your work today.
Thanks, Dave.
thank you, Commissioners.
Item number 15, discussion and consideration of an out-of-state travel request for Melanie Hetrick to attend the American Library Association of Library Services for Children National 2022 Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, 9/28/22 through 10/2/22. And with us this morning, we've got Jerry Godber, Library Director. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning. I'm working at our Garibaldi branch, so I am joining you on the phone. Quick correction, the conference actually is in Kansas City, Missouri, not Tennessee. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but it's Kansas City.
As long as the paperwork is correct, it doesn't have to be, I appreciate the correction on our agenda item. Thank you.
Yes, and I believe it's correct. Isabel was great to work with on getting this all in order. There's many hoops to jump through.
Understand. I guess we're ready to.
I'm in support. I think this is great. The children's section of our library is absolutely fantastic. My daughter and I spent lots of hours in there as she has grown up. And now that she's 17, she's not in the children's section, but we did spend a lot of time in there, and I appreciate Miss Melanie so much. And if this is training that will allow her to keep doing great work, definitely in support.
Likewise, I support our staff getting ongoing training, and I'm glad that we're moving out of a time of COVID when people can attend distant trainings again.
I just hope the airline tickets and the hotel reservations are in the right city. So, with that.
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Jerry. With that, we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an out-of-state travel request for Melanie Hetrick to attend the American Library Association of Library Services for Children National 2022 Conference in Kansas City, Missouri, September 28th, 2022 to October 2nd, 2022.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jerry. Item number 16, discussion and consideration of a personnel requisition for a new regular full-time communications and well-being manager in the Health and Human Services Department. And with us this morning, we've got Marlene Putman, Director, Health and Human Services. Good morning, Marlene.
Good morning. I'm excited to have this item on the agenda. I was contemplating how to make it as long as David's because I was like, challenge accepted. I'll see if I can get it really long just
Here we go. Here we go.
But I didn't. So this position is new for our department relating to communications and well-being, as the title indicates. There is an increasing workload pertaining to communication and outreach to hard-to-reach populations, both in response to emergencies, but also in response to public health modernization, and in general, in terms of providing services and access to our array of services. So that is part of this role, to oversee our internal and external communications plan and our strategy for social media. The other portion of the position relates to the broad category of public health and community well-being, including some support with our Tillamook County wellness work and backbone, if you will, support for those staff that we have on our team that support those committees. With, again, some expansion around public health modernization in both communicable disease and environmental health. They will be taking on a lead in those expanded duties as well. So we're looking to get this new position approved and the requisition to fill it taken care of so we can see if we receive some applicants for this exciting new job.
Thank you, Marlene. Questions, comments?
Just that I think this is a great position to add. I know that through the pandemic, we have done so much outreach and marketing. We've learned so much very quickly about how to increase our effectiveness in reaching our underserved communities, and really expanded that role through public health and the health department. So I think this is a great position to bring on board, to have someone who's really focused in this arena. The public health modernization is very clear about the expansion and really reaching our entire community and being very intentional about that. So I think this will be a great support.
I think it's terrific also. And important. It's important. The health department got up to speed pretty quickly through the pandemic to do massive communications, which nobody had that in their job title previously, to my knowledge. And so it makes perfect sense for this to be a dedicated job. I think the more communication is always better. And I'm sure that it'll be needed, and additionally, bilingual communication will be needed in the future, and so I think this is a good idea.
Perfect. Marlene, again, you and your staff at the health department have done a terrific job since this pandemic started in March of 2020. You guys have pivoted, you've kept the county safe and healthy, and we appreciate everything you're doing so much. Again, you're just doing a great job out there, and we appreciate it so much. I think we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of a personnel requisition for a new regular full-time communications and well-being manager in the Health and Human Services Department.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you so much. And I did like to mention one little point for those who are going, how is this going to be funded? So we do have modernization funds, and the big focus is around communication. So we're using those funds to fund about 3/4 of this position. And then the rest is on our other clinic-generated revenue.
That's great.
So thanks for letting me add that.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to item number 17, discussion and consideration in the matter of the notice of intent to award contract for the Tillamook County Courthouse interior remodeling contract. And it says it's being carried by me, Dave Yamamoto. So, Rachel Haggerty would normally do these things. She is on vacation. While she's been gone, this contract was out for bid. And it came back. One of the reasons we're here at the Sheriff's ATV Center is because we, the commissioners, have given up our commissioners' meeting rooms A and B, which is, as we speak, being turned into a circuit courtroom, and they're doing a terrific job on that. In the interim, we are in a very small meeting room in the basement of the courthouse. It's either the Nestucca or the Nehalem. I never remember which. We're in the Nehalem room, which is like 1/3 of the size of this room. And it works fine in some instances where we know we're not going to have many people in the room. But for other times where we know that we may have people wanting to address the board, it's very difficult for us to get more than a couple, 3 observers in that room. So we do have access to this room. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office very much for allowing us the use of this room when we need it. But we are in the process now. We're going to start a remodeling construction contract for what used to be courtroom 108 on the main floor of the courthouse. And hopefully within 2, 3, 4 months, we will have that ready to go as our commissioner's meeting room. But in the interim, we're still going to be jumping around a little bit, just depending on how many people we feel may be coming to our meetings, things of that nature. So I ask everyone online, please look at our agendas very carefully to make sure where we're going to be, if indeed you are planning on coming to our meeting in person. Otherwise, you can continue to watch us on Jane Scott's program here or online. So, this contract is with Columbia Cascade Construction, Inc. in the amount of $272,500, and we're ready to let the contract. So, any questions, comments?
No, I agree with you that the construction of the new circuit courtroom is wonderful. It looks great, and I know that the judges are happy with it, and it's going to be terrific. And then also courtroom 108 will be remodeled. That was the previous circuit courtroom will be remodeled for our use. So we have both of those things going on.
Yeah, and I think anyone who's been watching us knows that we say this each time, but the reason that we're doing this is it is a requirement of the counties to provide adequate and appropriate space for circuit court. And we have been working on this for many, many years. Many commissioners before us have had different ideas and thoughts and plans, but it's been very difficult to make them happen. And the time was right, and this became very critical coming out of COVID with the amount of court cases that had been backed up. And they had extended the timeline for a right to speedy trial, and that is going to expire. And if we had not found an adequately sized courtroom, we would have put the administration of justice in jeopardy. And so it's really crucial to solve this problem now. So we are at a little bit of a disadvantage for the next 3 months or so, but that is well worth it for what the end result is.
Perfect. Okay, we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of an order in the matter of notice of intent to award a contract for the Tillamook County Courthouse interior remodeling project.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 18, discussion and consideration of conducting a compensation review and market analysis for AFSCME represented positions. And I see I'm carrying this one also. So our contract HR department, HR Annie, did some work for us on a wage and comp study for non-represented and electeds. And we know that we have upcoming early next year, we will probably open bargaining with AFSCME, and we want to make sure that AFSCME employees, and again, our employees are the greatest asset that Tillamook County has, bar none. And we need to make sure that during the pandemic and all, inflation where it is today, we know we need to have a good idea of where we should be on our wage scales. And we can't do that without these types of studies. So I think it's important that we do this. HRNE has promised us to get this done, and after that we're going to go directly into a Teamsters market analysis again, compensation review and market analysis, so that we know exactly where we need to be, but also we need to know how we're going to pay for these things. So let's just open it up for any conversation that we might need.
Well, I'm definitely supportive of this. I have been in office for going on 4 years, and the whole time I've been in office, we've been talking about wage and comp studies for our employees, and so we broke it up into 3 sections. We started, as Commissioner Yamamoto said, with the non-represented executive study, basically because it doesn't have to be negotiated with the union. So we have that study complete. Then now we want to move into the AFSCME study, AFSCME employees who are represented by that union, and then finally Teamsters. And so it's exciting to me. The product that we got in the first third of the study, it was excellent. The quality was excellent, and it's data. It's all the information we've desperately needed, and so I'm really happy with the process and with the product, and I'm excited to see what comes out of the AFSCME study, and I think it's essential for us to look at this issue, wage and compensation, in order to not only do recruitment for open and future positions, but in just to retain the excellent staff that we have. And I think it's urgent that we do this.
And I agree, you know, the world has changed so drastically in the last few years, and we needed a wage and comp study before COVID and before all the changes that came forth with that. We need it even more now. As both other commissioners, you have both reflected, our employees are the most crucial thing that we have in the county. The services that we provide are provided by the people we employ, and we need to compensate them well so that they do want to stay here with us and do good work. So this is really crucial. I think the study that we had done, one of the things that was really impressive about it, and HRNE has been an amazing partner for us as a contract company, is that we looked not only at the regular counties that typically get looked at in a wage study, which is just to say, well, what other counties across the state of Oregon share our population? We actually expanded our study a little bit to look and say, let's also look at the price of housing in these different counties to determine what are the right comparable counties. Let's look at cost of living in the counties. What are the right comparable counties? And that's really important because we are, you know, we always say, if you've seen one county, you've seen one county, and that's very true. So when you try to do wage studies, it's difficult to balance those factors, and I really appreciate the work that HRNE did to give us a new way to look at this. It's challenging. The numbers that we have do look like we have some work to do, which means we have to find the funding to be able to implement these studies, and I think as commissioners, that's going to be our challenge going forward. So it's an exciting time, as Commissioner Bell indicated. It's much needed, and it will challenge us as a county to really look at the resources that are needed to pay people appropriately to get the services that the county needs. So this is just the beginning of what will be, I'm sure, many deep and difficult conversations as we work to utilize the information that we're getting. But we need to we have started, and we need to take the AFSCME step followed by the Teamsters step and really create a long-term plan for the county.
So true, it is. And again, this is something we've been looking to do for a long time. Even before I was a commissioner, we were saying we need to do a wage and comp study to do it where we should be. It's past time we did it, so we're biting the bullet, and we're just getting her done, as it were. So with that, without any further discussion, I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of conducting a compensation review and market analysis for AFSCME represented positions.
So I wonder if we want to amend that motion to include the Teamsters immediately following, so that we don't have to return to the table for that vote at a later time.
Well, I'm not sure we have the basis from HRNE for how they would conduct that. If indeed they conducted it differently than they did the AFSCME study. I would look to.
I'm the one who is kind of responsible for this being on your agenda today anyway, and I know that I think it was Ms. Frost asked about, do we want to use the same methodology that we used for the AFSCME study? And I thought, well, that's probably something that the board ought to bandy about in a public meeting. So I think we have a contract with them. I don't know if we have a contract with them for doing the Teamster study or not at this point.
We do not. So this is what the scope of work for the compensation review and market analysis. This is for AFSCME represented positions.
Yeah.
Although in conversations with Karen Frost of HRNE, she knows that we have every intention of getting this one done as quickly as we can, and then immediately starting on the team.
Agreed, and I think if what we need to do is agree in a public meeting that the methodology is something that we are all in support of, I would like to have that happen in this public meeting so that we don't find ourselves having to circle back and have HRNE delayed because we have not in a public meeting agreed that we wish to use the methodology to do AFSCME and Teamsters, and that we are committed to both of those. So that would be my recommendation. So I'm holding on a second to see if we can maybe amend that motion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either.
You'd be good with that?
Yep.
Okay, so, can we restate the motion, adding the Teamsters contract also?
Mr. Chair, I withdraw my previous motion, and I move approval of conducting a compensation review and market analysis for AFSCME and Teamsters represented positions.
In a second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. Moving on, item number 19. Discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a building official for Tillamook County, and I am going to handle this one. So this is an issue where we have employees going absolutely above and beyond. We have been contracting out our building official position for quite some time. There is a new Senate bill? Senate Bill 866 requires local jurisdictions to appoint a certified building official employed with Tillamook County for continued local oversight of the county's building program. Sarah Absher, our Director of Community Development, took it upon herself to start classes to earn her building official certification, which she did, passed it on her first test. Very proud of what she's done. This is not an easy situation. I think you're the only community development director, planning director, that also has their building official certification. This is going to go a long way in making sure that some of the roadblocks and things that we've had in the past are going to be resolved. I appreciate your hard work on this very much, Sarah. I really do. You're kind of a one-off in Oregon right now when it comes to what you're doing, all the different things that you're involved with. So I want to appreciate it so much, really do. And again, with this new Senate Bill 866, we're required to do this. And I think our timeline is June 1st, I believe, coming up. So again, appreciate it so much. You've got your certification from the state. You are going to be our building official until we find someone else. But right now, I'm not even sure we need to be looking. But again, what you're doing for the county, all the different aspects of your work in the county. One of the things I am very concerned about is overload for you. But again, appreciate so much you going to the extent to do this. And again, you're keeping the county and our needs at the forefront of the county. I appreciate that so much. Other comments, concerns, questions?
I think it's important for folks to know that we have been advertising for and attempting to hire a building official and an assistant building official for 12 months, I believe, more. So this is something that we have tried to solve by getting an additional staff person, in fact, 2 additional staff people, and we've been unsuccessful. So I think, one of the things that we've been seeing with our department heads is stepping outside of the normal box to find solutions in this staffing crisis world. We've seen the sheriff shift from, well, a deputy normally does paperwork, we're gonna try a records clerk because we think we can hire them, right? So everyone is moving and shifting, doing everything they can. Sarah has been successful in having contract services for us to cover for the employees that we've been unable to find. However, the Senate bill came forward and said, no, we don't like that. It needs to be someone in your employment. And that definitely threw us for a bit of a loop. And I also very much appreciate Sarah's determination to find a solution for Tillamook County. We still would very much like to have a building official and an assistant building official that are employees of the county that are in addition to Sarah, because those are really crucial positions. And we know that our contractors look to those positions on a daily basis for support in the work that they do. And we know that this is gonna put a burden on Sarah. The good news is that much of the building official work is the admin work. It is the compliance related work as opposed to directly with the contractors. That falls more to an assistant building official, which I'm hopeful that we are moving forward with. June 1st. So we've been kind of hesitant because it's, people say yes and then they're not sure. So we believe that we will have the assistant building official position filled, which I think will really help our contractors. And if they're watching and listening and being, feeling concerned, we have an ABO coming on board, and Sarah will keep us in compliance with the state with this requirement. I had no idea that the building official was such a realistic technical position that the county must have one appointed at all times. This is not something that is a nice position to have. This is required. And in the event that we are unable to manage our own building, if I understand correctly, it falls back to the state, and the state will step in and take over the program, which is something we absolutely don't want to have happen, because their ability to be responsive is definitely in question. So again, I think this is really important. I appreciate Sarah's willingness to step into this role and to keep us in compliance while we keep working to staff the department to its fullest.
Ditto. Most of what I had in mind to say, my colleagues have already said. I want to thank Sarah for being willing to step in and, really, she's the hero in this situation in that, as has been mentioned before, we have been working with a contractor who is our building official, and Senate Bill 866 made it imperative that we have a local building official or else turn over our building official services to the state, which would be a disaster. And so Sarah went to school nights. She is a very busy woman. So it's extraordinary to me that Sarah went to school nights and got her certification so that we would not have to turn over our building official services to the state. So thank you very much for that. I have heard in anticipation of this agenda item, I've heard from a couple of people. I heard from someone who was really concerned about you and said, that how much work do you expect Sarah Absher to do? And I agree with that. This isn't something I don't think that's sustainable. So my hope for you and for the program is that this is an interim solution until we can find a full-time local building official. I'm thrilled to hear that we have an assistant building official, hopefully starting June 1st. And I've also heard from contractors a couple who talked about, I thought you guys were looking for a local building official who would be our go-to person, and I know you can be that for them, but people are worried about you being stretched too thin, as am I. So thank you very much for doing this, and it's our sincere hope and intention that you won't have to do it forever, but you really saved us in the interim, so thank you.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval on the matter of the appointment of a building official for Tillamook County.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Can we take a break before we
Sarah? Yes, okay. Why don't we take a quick 5-minute recess? We're going to go into recess at 10:29 a.m. and come back at 10:35 a.m. Thank you. We're in recess.